Project Shadowzone, Captain Hickok.
In the dark of a lifeless sleep.
By taking subjects beyond normal levels of dream state sleep,
A research team
we discovered that a parallel dimension exists.
is exploring the world beyond dreams.
There's something I think you should see.
What is it?
I don't know.
Someone's trying to gain entry to the project.
It's a shadowy realm where science ends.
This is very dangerous.
It's coming out of the darkness.
Do something!
I can't. Something's overriding the program. Yeah.
Where your darkest fears are given life.
It can assume the physical nature of human thought.
Become any size, any shape it wants.
It became what Kidwell was looking for.
Where the distance between sleep and death
There's no way out.
is just a nightmare away. Louise Fletcher, James Hong, Sean Weatherly. Shadowzone.
All right. Well, there it is, guys. Not Crash and Burn.
Wait a minute.
Shadowzone. We're getting a bit ahead of ourselves there. We're going to be talking about Crash and Burn a little bit today, though. There's some connections shared between that and this film. But yes, today we're talking, obviously, about 1990s Shadowzone. For another episode of the Nocturnal Emissions here. Shadowzone was written and directed by J.S. Cardone, produced by Carol Cottonbrook. It stars Louise Fletcher, David Beecroft, James Hong, Miguel A. Nunez, and what's her ass? Lou Leonard. Always good to see her up in something. It was shot, had cinematography by Karen Grossman. There's some stuff in here that will make you say, gross, man. So it makes some sense. It was edited by Thomas Maselski. It had music by Richard Band. Obviously, it was distributed by Full Moon, and I'm going to assume Paramount Home Video. It came out on February 22nd of 1990. It's got a runtime of 88 minutes and no budget listed, but I'm going to guess that it was fairly decent for the type of film that they're making here. Some good effects up in this thing, which we will be discussing at some point. Shadowzone is not a film that I have a ton of history with. This isn't one I don't think I'd ever even seen until I started really collecting Full Moon hard. Somehow escaped me as a kid at the video store. And it's a shame because I think this is one that I would have rented a ton as a lad had I seen it at the time. I'm big into these sort of monster in a big dark house movies and science gone wrong type shit, all that stuff. But I have seen it a few times. This is, I believe, my second or third discussion I've participated in based on Shadowzone. And I did an edited review of it for Full Moon Madness at one point. So I've covered the film a lot in the last several years. And I'm happy to do it again. Today we do have Cody with us, though, a fellow schlockaholic and B-movie connoisseur. How's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you, Hanson?
Pretty good. Happy to have you up on here for this. It's hopefully the first of many for this series. This was a first-time watch for you, correct?
Yep. Watched it this afternoon / this morning, so it'll be fresh on my mind. But to kind of piggyback a second on what you said, going off the poster art, like I don't think I had to have seen it either at the video store, because I definitely think I would have grabbed it based on just the art alone.
Right. Yeah, it's got a striking poster there. It's definitely one that would have jumped out at, I believe, most a horror fan had they seen it. It is a tape that's pretty well loved in the tape collecting groups, which is the only place I've ever really seen it talked about extensively. Outside of that, even a lot of Full Moon fans don't talk about Shadowzone as much as I feel like it deserves to be talked about. Excuse the watermark on there. This is the best quality photo of the poster that I could find. So did you like it, though? I mean, what was your general impression of the film?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. I didn't love it. Like, it wasn't the top tier Full Moon, but there's definitely been a lot worse. And I was surprised kind of I guess we'll say star power. There was some pretty good names in it, and
Yeah.
which made it even more surprising that I've never seen it. So it was. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Right on. So we also got Jester Mikey down here. Now, this definitely isn't Mikey's first time with Shadowzone. What are your general thoughts on Shadowzone, Mike?
It's a really good movie. Awesome. The alien guy, John Doe, is like my favorite thing in the movie, I guess. As a matter of fact, I got a prop right here that I bought years ago. I definitely do have a video on it right here on YouTube. It's the monkey. It's all torn apart and rotted down because it's very old, from 1990. And I think it's a really good movie. It's really awesome.
Hell yeah, dude, that's epic.
I'm definitely jealous of that. That is very cool. I'll have to find that
Yeah,
video
he's
and
got
watch
a
it for sure.
for sure. Yeah, Mikey's gonna he's gonna impress us with a lot of his artifacts over there. He's got some shit that you can't just go grab off the Full Moon website, which is real cool. What about you, Mason? I mean, I'm gonna assume that you've seen Shadowzone before. This definitely isn't your first rodeo. Your first trip out to Jackass Flats.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, like Shadowzone is actually like one is a pretty interesting film. Like, in a way, it kind of fits with some of the more like sci-fi horror, similar to like a former one although I watched Shadowzone before, called Creepazoids, with the alien guy, bunch of people stuck in this area when that's trying to kill them all. And in a way, it's actually one of the film's more gory films, kind of like the start of the more blood splatter flicks that film is kind of known for. As like with Pumpmaster, Master, was kind of tamed, but this kind of goes more all out with that sort of.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's several things in this that I think maybe Full Moon hadn't often delved into, like proper chunky gore, heads exploding, things like that. Just full frontal nudity. Let's address the
Male
elephant
and
in the
female.
room.
Male
Yeah,
and
dude. And I never really thought about it. Like, I've always noticed the long lingering cock shot in Shadowzone, because it's like, what the fuck? Why did they spend so much time like panning around that guy's junk? But then when you realize that it's a woman that shot it, it's a little bit more forgivable. And it's like, it's not like plenty of male DPs haven't been guilty of some lingering shots like that on the females in other horror films, you know? So I guess it's us getting a bit of our own medicine, but man, is there a lot of penis in this movie. I thought I was watching an episode of Game of Thrones or something. You know? Just dick's flopping. It's not really flopping. It's just sitting there. You know? It's stationary penis. But you see a lot of it. The gore is pretty impressive, and I think the effects are of a slimier variety that maybe remind me a little bit of the Empire days more than they remind me of a lot of the other Full Moon stuff that we would get. And that makes a lot of sense. This movie, I guess, originally was supposed to be shot as an Empire movie called Dream Invaders or something like that. Much prefer Shadowzone as the title. Makes a little bit more sense. And I think the movie worked out the way that it was meant to. I don't know if we would have got the same cast for it if it had came out in the 80s as an Empire flick. It might have had more money behind it, so some of the stuff might have looked cooler or better. But who's to say? You know, that's not the timeline that we live in.
Well, with that title, I don't think that title would have been as eye-catching or attention-grabbing at all.
Yeah, it just doesn't roll off the tongue, you know. Yeah, you'd like it, babe. There's all sorts of peen in there. Just laying up there in his cryo tube. And his head explodes, you know. So, and not the one you might think.
That one's still intact.
So basically the gist of Shadowzone is there's this government project that's going on out in the desert in this place called Jackass Flats, and like this decommissioned sort of Cold War era military research facility. There'd been a death as part of this project. So they send this, you know, NASA pilot type dude. I don't know why he's sent in there. He really gives you like sort of test pilot vibes. But I guess maybe when they're not flying planes for NASA and stuff, they double as investigators. I don't know.
It's almost like a Top Gun suit he's wearing.
Yeah. But they sent him out there. to figure out what the fuck's going on with this death as part of this research project. Their funding is already in danger of being cut because they don't seem to be producing results, and they need to have this guy assess whether or not it's even worth proceeding with if people are going to be getting killed in the process. Basically, the research that they're working on is a way to like help people sleep, you know, in like stasis for deep space flights. And it seems like they pretty much cracked it. I mean, they figured out how to electrically like separate your brain stem from your fucking frontal or cortex or some shit like that to basically make you go into super, super deep sleep. You know, to avoid dragging it out longer than we need to, basically the gist of it is they were really trying to research using or figure out if they could use this to bridge the gap into this other dimension where these, you know, strange beings inhabited or whatever. Kind of like a little bit of From Beyond in there, if you think about it. And it worked, you know, they basically accidentally unleashed one of these creatures into the base with them. It happens to be radioactive, which trips the fail-safe systems and traps them inside the base with the thing. They have no way to communicate with the outside, and basically they can't get out of the place until they get rid of the creature. What do you guys think of the whole cast of characters we've got here? I mean, I think the first people we're really introduced to is Shivers and our old boy, Captain Hickok, played by David Beecroft. Shivers is played by Frederick Flynn. What do you guys think of these dudes? Let's go with you first, Cody.
They were not bad. I mean, Hickok was kind of your standard, I don't know, hero, leader, whatever. But I mean, let's face it, Shivers was the star of the show.
Shivers is pretty great. I like him a lot. He was in J.S. Cardone's previous film that he did called The Slayer. So that's these guys coming back and working together again, apparently. The Slayer, I feel like I saw on Tubi back in the day, or I don't know, somewhere on the internet. It's got a cool creature in it, too. Real greasy and melty looking, just like the creature in this. I like, you know, David Hickok, or the Captain Hickok, David Beecroft. He's a pretty cool dude. A lot of people might remember him from Creepshow 2 and various TV performances. I just like him in this a lot. I don't know. He feels like he plays the perfect sort of all-American hero type dude. He reminds me of like a protagonist from a Nintendo game or something back in the day, you know, like just army dude. If you did a casting call for just classic army guy, David Beecroft is who you're going to get, I feel like. And it works. He's got a real chill vibe throughout the whole movie, even when shit's going to hell. I think he kind of holds it together. He doesn't feel like he's like exaggeratedly macho, but he feels macho enough, I guess, to that you feel confident he can handle himself or whatever, which works out real good for him being like this investigator guy that's supposed to be actually taking a legitimate look at this situation and figuring out what needs to be done. If he came in there all gung-ho, like, you know, was doing like the tough guy army dude shtick, I think it would have made it a bit cornball, but I think he plays it pretty straight and it works. Shivers is kind of gross and sketchy, but that's kind of what you want your handyman that's, you know, running, trying to keep up on some like old disused army base to be like, I guess. I really like that scene where he's eating dinner. What do you think about our first two characters we're introduced to here, Mikey?
Well, Captain Hickok he's a captain, he's like in charge of everything, he's a leader, and knows what has to get done, and he looks into it. And Shivers, well, Shivers is kind of like, he's like energy, like he's got to keep on top of things, and he gets kind of crazy over some situations.
Yeah, I imagine it's pretty stressful when you're down there working and trying to, you know, maintain this base, and you have to worry about somebody feeding you rat shit because you haven't plugged up the holes in the kitchen. You fucking lazy hillbilly dipshit. I love when she calls him that.
Yeah, that's funny. That's like my favorite part in the movie. If the dead rat on the tray, oh, that's hilarious. Bon appetit. Go ahead, eat it up.
Yeah, those were some girthy rats, though. So if they really were like out of food, they could probably survive for quite a while on those things. What about you, Mason? What are your impressions of these guys?
Well, Elizabeth Captain Hitchcock, he play he's pretty the character does himself pretty good. Captain Hitchcock kind of plays sort of like the man assigned for this sort of secret government project to go into what's going on. Kind of gets in a way, he kind of gets stuck in the middle of this whole situation that although in which he wasn't really involved in, but now that he's hearing these creatures now, and Lucy's basically stuck there working with the side just to try and find it and basically bring it back to where it belongs. So
Right. What do you think of old Shivers? Do you think he's a solid
Shivers
handyman?
Yeah, he's a pretty interesting character. Oh yeah.
My glasses were looking pretty similar to his until recently. Super glad that I got those replaced. So pretty much right after that, we're introduced to Dr.
Busting them out for the show, though.
Yeah, it would have been a appropriate accessory to have for this. So pretty much right after that, we're introduced to Dr. Earhart, played by Louise Fletcher, old Nurse Ratched from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. She's definitely a highlight in the film, I think. She adds like a sinister element to the proceedings without being too over the top about it as well. She doesn't go full evil doctor, but she goes full like doctor that's a little bit too caught up in her research. I like that she has the chapstick gimmick the whole time. She's like carrying it around or holding it in her mouth or like doing, rolling it around on the table. It's just something to keep her busy, I guess. Because I'm sure this movie was light work for Louise Fletcher. She's a fucking legend and had been on sets way bigger and more intense than this. So I'm sure it was fun for her to just kind of slide back into the Nurse Ratched role a little bit while doing something a little different with it. What were your impressions of her, Cody? And are you familiar with her from other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't place. I didn't look. I could tell I've seen her in a few other things, and I want to say what I was thinking about wasn't Cuckoo's Nest, so now I'm going to have to look and see what it was. But hey, we don't know. I mean, the air could be pretty dry down there. Maybe her lips are really chapped. I mean, it could. Maybe she was doing so much, they just finally just, we'll just keep it in the movie. I'm tired of cutting it.
Yeah, it's important to keep those smackers fucking well lubricated, especially if you're going to be delivering lines and whatnot. I don't think we ever got a good look at what flavor it was. I'm just going to assume classic chapstick,
She looks like a classic kind of gal.
Yeah, I figure she would just go with the original. What about you, Mikey? What do you think of Dr. Earhart or Louise Fletcher in this film?
Well, I think she's a pretty decent. She's the assistant of Dr. Van Fleet, so she's like talkative throughout the whole entire like research thing. And of course, I guess the chapstick keeps her lips protected like at all times, and she's like ready to speak up and tell everybody what's going on.
They really missed an opportunity for the chapstick to be like what defeats the creature at the end. But I guess with the way that the movie is set up, I'm glad that the creature didn't get defeated because you end up sort of sympathetic for it by the time the movie's done. What did you think of Dr. Earhart, Mason? And have you seen Louise Fletcher in anything else?
I don't think I'm actually familiar with any of the Louise Fletcher's work, but overall, I kind of found that she was kind of more as sort of like a neutral villain. Like she's not at all evil, but her was up in a way sort of twisted. In a way, it's kind of interesting how like in this first set of films, it's how there's always sort of like this human antagonist with sort of the monsters of the film, like sort of like more neutral, sympathetic, or not the villain at all.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that's definitely interesting that you point that out, man. I mean, it's kind of that way in Puppet Master for sure, where like the creatures, quote unquote, of the film aren't really the bad guys at the end, and that's sort of the same thing with Shadowzone for sure, and really kind of even Crash and Burn. I mean, Bill Moseley's just a killer robot in that. It's not his fault. He didn't build himself to be like that. There's like a person on the other end of it somewhere. And that's, exactly like basically the gist of this is the creature that they unleashed doesn't want to be there any more than they want it to be there. and in fact is like slowly, you know, dying because it's having a hard time holding its shape together and keeping itself, you know, intact in this dimension. So the humans really did it. They really kind of fucked up its day, and you know that's driven home at the end when they kill Louise Fletcher and kind of symbolically stay the fuck out of our dimension. Like, I'm gonna go home and not melt anymore if that's all right. But yeah, I don't know. She does a good job of playing like one of those scientists she's, I guess, a villain. And same thing with Van Fleet, I guess you could say, but not in a malicious way. They're really just locked into this research and trying to, you know, be successful with this experiment and learn about these beings or whatever. I don't think they had any ill intent, and all the people that signed up for this thing signed up knowing that there was risks involved and signed waivers and everything like that. So, you know, it's not like they're out there stealing victims off the street to do this to or something. So morally, I don't think they really did anything that wrong. They were just kind of, you know, conducting their own experiments on the side of researching this deep sleep method for space flight, and it went wrong.
Well, I'm sure to them, after like the ends justify the means. Like after a while, it's just kind of, I'm paying you to do a job, you know, the risks involved. So I mean, they're kind of just,
yeah,
they just go with it. And I did just look. I remember her from, she was the principal in High School High.
I don't think I've seen that.
That's what I remember her from.
She's good, man. She's probably one of my favorite parts of Cuckoo's Nest. It's such a good movie. That's actually shot here back in the day at the Oregon State Mental Hospital. You know? Sanitarium or something like that. I don't know what they called them back in those days, but
that's cool.
I went by there like one time back in the day. I didn't go in or anything, but I was like outside the building, you know.
That's cool.
So I guess probably right around, I mean, I like to imagine it's where, you know, the Indian feller threw that thing through the window and they escape, you know. Maybe not, though. I don't know if it was the right side of the building. I didn't do any research. I just knew that it was the place and popped by. So after that, we're pretty much introduced to, I think we actually get introduced to Miguel Nunez's character, Wiley, before we actually meet Dr. Van Fleet. Wiley's pretty fucking cool, but it's Miguel Nunez, so what do you expect? I mean, anytime that guy shows up in something, he's going to be enjoyable, and this is no exception. That being said, not a ton for him to do in this movie, you know? He's just kind of there on the computers, and then he helps to fix an elevator at one point, and he, you know, attempts to fix a transformer with Hickok. And I gotta say, even though he didn't do a ton, I for some reason really like his chemistry with Hickok. Like if this was a bigger, more complex movie, I like to think they would have had like almost some buddy cop action stuff going on, or it would have been even maybe neat to see them play those kind of characters in a different movie altogether. Because there was just something about the way that they were interacting that was like charming, you know. And there's even a point where David Beecroft like excitedly goes like, yeah, and like grabs Miguel Nunez by the shoulders for a second or whatever, and it's just, you could just tell that those guys were having fun together on set. So I guess even though he didn't get to do a ton, I liked watching him do what he was doing with David Beecroft, and I wish that I could have watched them do more of it, you know. It was a shame too when Miguel Nunez gets bumped off because of the malfunctioning elevator. Beecroft did look bummed, you know, like he's trying pretty hard to hold that door open, and he's looking out at him like, man, you know, this sucks. I want to save you, but I can't, you know. Which I can only imagine is just because they were probably bummed they didn't get to do any more scenes together, because they did look like they were palling down, you know. I don't know. What do you guys think of Wiley as a character in this, drinking his Coca-Cola?
I think he was all right. Like it's still kind of what I think was just funniest to the movie is just no matter what he had to do on the computer is basically like he was just typing the same words each time. It was like like just there was like, it's like 90s, you know, obviously computer stuff. It's whatever, and they had their little like wireless old school drive-through headsets on to communicate with each other. He was okay. I've never been a big fan of his, so I mean, I could take him or leave him either way. I'm in the minority there where I've never really.
I've always liked him, man, and there's just something funny about his characters usually. I like how in this he's kind of like not mean to the scientists, but he definitely doesn't kiss their ass. You know, he kind of calls them like silly names at different points, and
he kind of reminds me of Newman from Jurassic Park.
Yeah, I could see that a little bit.
He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room.
I guess he's kind of like a bit of a weirdo in real life. I've seen footage of him at conventions in recent years where he's like trying to hawk these sort of like, it's like some, I don't know if it's a drink or like diet bars or something like that. It's some sort of like health product that he swears is what keeps him young. And maybe he's right. I don't know. It's a strange thing. It's got a bit of a snake oil salesman vibe to it. So I've never been sure what to make of that.
I'm sure it works though. Even people that aren't into trying to be healthy will buy it just because it's from him. He was at he was at the horror con we went to this year, and had a microphone all the time. So it was just talking all the time. And it was, to me, it was annoying. I'm sure to some people it's probably funny or cute or clever, but
was he trying to sell his snake oils?
I didn't get a good look at his table, but that's probably what that or getting people to come over for autographs, which I get. I mean, I
kind of hope he was. I mean, if you're going to be a sleazy snake oil salesman, you might as well do it old school, where you show up with the wagon and like a megaphone and just get people out there buying your elixirs. I'm not going to give him any money for it, but
selling people a brick. It'll make ugly people pretty. It'll make fat people skinny.
Yeah, fuck yeah. Hell, one of those Matrosha bricks. I could use one of those. So I don't know. What do you guys think of him? I guess we'll go with you, Mikey. What do you think of Wiley?
I think Wiley's a good guy. He's mostly the computer guy, the technology guy, because he does what he's got to do on the computer, and he's like a repair guy, an electrician. He fixes a couple things, tries to fix the elevator, and he's a hard worker. And I know Miguel Nunez from a few other movies, too. I believe he was DJ in the Street Fighter movie.
And what's funny is
I always mainly...
I almost want to say he played a similar character doing that because he was kind of making his little digs at Bison and Street Fighter. So it's almost like he played a similar kind of where he still throws.
That is true. Yeah,
very similar.
I wonder if it is a callback to Shadowzone. You know, because that definitely came out after this.
Street Fighter was 94.
You know what, that movie? Yeah, it is definitely one we have to cover someday. I think that and Mario would make a real good double feature for the channel because there's definitely schlock involved in both those films.
I will cover any Van Damme movie anytime.
Hell yes.
Anytime.
So who else do we got here? Oh, we got Dr. Van Fleet himself, old fucking Egg Shen, isn't it? Or not Egg Shen.
We skipped Mason. We skipped Mason.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mason. What do you think of Miguel Nunez's character?
Well, I think Wiley's like a pretty interesting, good character. And like those stories as the engineer. In one way, he also says that so like kind of start with Hitch character to like you said, almost have so like a brotherly bond. So it's like in a big picture would have been like I think it would have been better play like a major role and have like a big impactful death in the film.
Right. Yeah, his death does kind of happen off camera. A lot of them do, really. And we'll get to that when we talk about effects for sure, because I've always been sort of confused about how there's like gore, but then not gore in Shadowzone. But yeah, you would have thought his death would have been more of a gigantic like set piece thing. Same thing with like the main doctor, Louise Fletcher, probably gets like the most on-screen dead in the movie. Everybody else kind of happens in a cut, you know. I guess we'll just talk about it now. Outside of the head exploding and the full frontal nudity, and then like the autopsy room stuff, there really isn't, like, they sort of pull the punches on the actual kills themselves in the movie, which I don't know if it is a good thing for the film or not. every part of me wants to see the nurse or the cutter, the cook, who we also skipped. Every part of me wants to see that rat gnaw her arm off, like in graphic detail. But is it better that they didn't show it? I don't know. I mean, it does make the movie feel a little classier, I guess, that there's not like a ton of visceral violence on screen. It's implied. But then there's the splatter junkie part of me that's like, damn, I would have loved to have seen, you know, Shivers get exploded all over the hallway, you know. We don't even know what happened to Miguel Nunez. He's just kind of dead. The only kill I could say 100% I could justify happening off camera is the monkey kill. But, you know, even that, like, is made up for the fact that you don't get to see it actually happen by the fact that you get to see how gnarly the monkey actually looks. So, I don't know, what do you guys think? What do you think, Cody? Do you think the movie is hurt by not having the kills in graphic detail, or do you think it adds a layer of class to the proceedings?
I don't think that was intentional. I think they probably, like a lot of these low budget movies, they probably blew their load on some of the costumes and like the rat and bingo and all that stuff. Like I think they overspent on some stuff, and then when it came down to doing some of that other scenes, I'm sure the right answer that director probably gives is that was the plan all along, to have the kills be where you use your imagination. But I'm sure most people wouldn't go out to make a movie like that. They would want their stuff to be front and center, especially if it goes with how the rest of the movie is playing. So I'm going to guess that they probably overspent in some other departments and then just kind of had to make do with what they could.
I'm inclined to agree, man. I mean, they blew a naked guy's head the fuck up as like the first kill of the movie. So I'm pretty sure they were trying to set the tone with that and had intended for the other kills to be more splattery. But like you said, they just didn't have the funds to pull it off. So they did the best possible thing they could have with that in mind. I don't know. What do you think, Mikey?
I don't know. It's kind of unusual. Well, yeah, if the kills are not shown, because how are you gonna know if if people are being killed? Like, it doesn't show it. You don't know. Like, you don't know if they're squashed or if they're ripped apart or that their throat slit. Like, it doesn't show. Like, what are you supposed to know? So, I kind of feel missed out on that.
What about you, Mason? Do you think the movie is lacking because of the lack of visceral violence?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, in a way, aside from the head explosion, most of the kills are pretty tamed, and most we kind of get is basically like blood splatters and people screaming for the indication that someone died. Though I guess in a way it kind of adds so it's the mysterious sort of danger to the creature itself. Like, it's just hard to imagine what it actually did to its victims, or how vicious it actually is.
Right. I mean, it works, I guess, is what we're saying in a roundabout way. It still works. It's just maybe they set the tone in a way that makes you expect more with the head exploding and all that. I mean, it's like a scanner style head explosion that you get right out of the gate. And then there really isn't any more gore to be had in the movie after that. I mean, even prior to leading up to the head explosion too, we get like autopsy room stuff that's all gross and chunky. I love the part where Bingo like smacks the corpse's head and it sprays fucking Louise Fletcher with brain fluid and blood and stuff.
It was at that moment I knew I was going to like the movie.
Yeah, right. So they're definitely, I mean, they intentionally set the tone for this to be like a splatter fest, and then immediately it goes in a totally different direction with the rest of the violence and the effects at that point. So I think there is something that happened there production wise that affected it for sure.
Well, I'm also sure that the magic shotgun had to cost some money too.
Yes. That's the only goof I think that's listed on IMDb, is that he shoots like 15 rounds in it without ever reloading it. It's just silly. The shotgun never has any effect on anything other than breaking the switch for one of the lifts. It's the most useless gun, I think, in horror history. But yeah, man, I don't know. The only other characters we really have is Cutter, who's like the facility cook. We've talked a bit about her gloriously hilarious moment with Shivers in the dining room, where she threatens to fucking feed him mystery meats if he doesn't fix the rat problem, and she calls him a fucking hillbilly dipshit. She's a fun lady. She shows up in other stuff. As far as I know, this might be like her only horror film, maybe. But she's been in a ton of TV stuff. And then we have Sean Weatherly, who is like a Baywatch babe at one point. I think she did a couple other horror films as well. This is just really the thing I know her from. And she's all right. You know, she plays kind of the lady that takes care of the lab animals. She's pretty much there to justify, you know, the monkey, I guess, being in the movie, who next to Shivers is probably the other highlight of the film for me. A real cool scene there where, you know, she thinks she found the monkey, but Shivers really found the monkey, and then it goes all mutant mode and destroys her. That's it. She doesn't really contribute much to the movie other than she likes animals, you know. At one point, she completely ditches everybody in the middle of this crisis to go look for a monkey. That ends up killing her. So you get what you deserve, bitch. I don't know.
Well,
She's all right.
I'm not going to say that I wouldn't do the same in that situation.
I might, yeah. I guess. I don't know. I might have taken fucking David Beecroft with me, though. I don't think I would have done it solo. Hickok probably would have made it a more successful mission. And that's pretty much it in terms of characters, you know. The plot plays out pretty much how you'd expect, and we've broken down a lot of it already. They get trapped in this facility. They have no way to get out until the creature is gone. You know, at some point, Louise Fletcher pretty much lays out the explanation of what the creature is and the fact that it's like slowly deteriorating from being trapped in our dimension because it's not, you know, from this plane of existence or whatever. So it even holding together its form that it's able to change at will is very taxing on it. It just wants to go home. Oh, hey, Kyle. Fuck yeah, dude. Me and Kyle used to do all types of fun stuff back in the day, play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons together, too. I thought that was Jody's thing because they have the same basic little like icon, but it's a K and not a J. What's up, bud? Thanks for tuning in. Howdy, Michael. Sorry you missed the mixtape the other night, but I'm glad you're able to catch it after the fact. And yes, Jody, you and Cody you got a soft spot for those monkeys. I get it. Bingo was cool, mainly because not a lot of movie monkeys splatter, you know, older ladies with brain fluids. So he gets a vote for me. I probably would have saved him as well.
There was a bunny cameo, so I'm kind of surprised that we didn't get a crazed bunny sometime in that movie. There was a
bunny cameo. That scene is super weird because that cage is just trashed. And she asks the bunny, like, what's wrong? Did something scare you? And it's like, probably the thing that fucking ripped the cage open.
Ripped open.
Yeah, of course it did, dude. What? And she acts like the cage being ripped open isn't a big deal. You know?
It's just Bingo being Bingo.
Yeah, she just gets on the intercom kind of like, Bingo's missing, guys. I'm going to go look for him. Like, it seems like it's likely he might be dead. You know, it turns out he's not, thankfully. But, yeah, she doesn't add a ton to the movie, and she's gone pretty quick when she's not running around looking for a monkey. So, you know, the movie kind of ends up setting us on this collision course with David Beecroft and this creature. Everybody gets bumped off in pretty short order once the events of the film start unfolding, and you end up with just him and Louise Fletcher alive. She's kind of still pretty adamant that they don't kill the thing. She's fascinated by it. She wants to learn more about it. And so, you know, they kind of end up agreeing that either way, they've got to set it up to where they can turn this machine back on, use the girl that's in there to, you know, sort of reform this connection to allow this thing to get back to its side of this barrier, this dimensional like plane. And that's pretty much what happens, you know. Louise Fletcher tries to get a little bit too curious and peek in there onto the other side, and she comes back out and she's like, there's thousands of them. And then that thing's like, yeah, well, we don't want you coming back. And it just fucking shanks her with that tube and pulls her back in there and kind of looks at old David Beecroft, like, you don't come following, this is the last interaction we need to have. And I think he's more than happy to leave it at that, because, shit got pretty hairy. It ends up being that he's rewarded with a fairly hot, blonde, naked lady at the end of the movie. And that's it, That's the end of the film. I guess the main thing for us to talk about here is how awesome and disgusting the creature is. What do you guys think of that old monster up here in Shadowzone? We'll start with you, Cody.
Oh, it looks great. I think it was worth waiting towards the end of the movie for you to see what he actually looked like, because even seeing what he could, shapeshift as, like that carnival worker from back when one of the doctors was a kid that scared the hell out of him at the freak show, Mrs. or Madam Pitts or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think it was Madam Pip.
Madam Pip. I mean, that was cool. Seeing the alternate bingo was cool.
We get kind of shortchanged on the rat just because of how quickly it cuts after it blows through the wall, but it was a cool scene the way it was set up with the rat trap and everything, and I liked that, but again, we just get kind of shortchanged on the effect because they cut for whatever reason. It almost makes me think that the rat model was like damaged when they burst it through the wall, so they had to like salvage what they could of the take, but couldn't do it again or something.
I got when she got the pipe through her, it reminded me of Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and the way the guy was still behind her, I was hoping he was going to make her talk.
That would have been sweet.
That's
and the
what I
way
thought
she
was
played
gonna
it, dude, the way she played it when she was dying right there was unsettling. Like, she just goes proper dead. That's the type of performance that you're only going to get out of like a seasoned vet like Louise Fletcher. She nailed it. And again, you kind of feel bad for everybody involved in this, even Louise Fletcher. Like, she's just super curious and wants to learn about these things and ends up paying the ultimate price or whatever, just like old fucking David Lopan getting squished by Madam Pip in there. Like, they weren't trying to harm anybody, and certainly not harm the creature. Their main thing was, to try to keep it alive so that they could learn from it. And they didn't learn much because they were real dead real quick. Thanks for popping in, Kyle. We need to get together and have a movie night in person here real soon. Maybe play some D&D again, too. Miss doing that. I can introduce you to Tunnels and Trolls as well. I think you'd like that quite a bit. Me and Kyle used to hang out a ton. He's a local boy. I think actually I did review some stuff on YouTube's with him way back in the day when I first tried my hand at it. Life comes along. Sometimes you spend a few years where you don't really hang out, but we don't live that far from each other, so we need to start fixing that. I don't know, man. I think, my favorite of the effects that we get in the movie probably is the mutant monkey, just because it's, just so disgusting. It reminds me a little bit of, like, I don't know, The Fly for some reason. Like how when he sends that monkey through and it ends up all fucked up. Like, I imagine, and I don't think we really hardcore get to see it depending on the cut of the movie that you watch. But in this, you get to see it, and that's pretty much what I imagine a monkey turned inside out would look like. And it's a decent effect. And then when you see the pedigree that this dude has, or his track record of doing good effects for solid horror films like Evil Dead 2 and Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, it makes sense why the stuff in this looks so good. The overall design of the creature, I think, is super sick. How it really does look like something that's trying to hold a solid form but failing at it, so it's all droopy and melty and like just disgusting. Its fucking hands are like, I love it, man. I think it's one of the coolest looking creatures and easily the grossest looking creature, I think, in any full moon film. What do you think about that gooey old boy at the end of this movie there, Mikey?
I think he's really awesome. His name is John Doe. And I like the way, he appears. His teeth are real long and sharp. He shows his hand. It's, real slow when he first appears in the end. It's really cool. I like the eyes, too. His eyes move, side to side. And and he transforms into all these other creatures. He transforms into that giant rat, that mutated bingo, and Madam Pip. He's got molecular structure. He transforms into it and kills the person. He's really cool. And he is, the grossest and, maybe the slimiest creature of every movie from Full Moon, because I can compare him with every other creature, or most of them at least. He's really awesome, John Doe. And that's why I got this mutated bingo prop. Yes, he's really cool, really awesome.
What about you, Mason? What do you think of John Doe? I like that. Yeah, I never would have thought to call it that, but that is totally what it's called in the movie. You know, John Doe came to visit. She says it like outright.
Yep. Yeah, John Doe is like a pretty cool monster. In a way, it's like a mix between the Thing and Pennywise from Ed Wood, taking the form of basically like the scientist's greatest fears or people in their life kind of like playing with the minds of so though it kind of though in a way like it kind of starts out like it's just this mindless danger creature that's lashing out, but later on in the end you kind of start to sympathize with him, like he just wants to go home, which he does in not before giving a warning of to Hitchcock to never come back.
I think another thing we definitely got shortchanged on, in addition to the obvious gore and the kills that did happen, is a couple of those, mainly with Wiley and Shivers. We don't get to see what their fear was, like, because it fully happens off screen. I like to think Miguel Nunez's would have just been a big enchilada. If you know, you know. Those damn enchiladas.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Shivers, it's anybody's guess. I don't know what his fear was. It's hard to speculate, but at least with the
cold.
What's that?
He's probably afraid of the cold.
Oh, it could be.
His name is Shivers.
Right. And I mean, even with the ones like, you know, Cutter, or, you know, old what's her ass, Dr. Kidwell or whatever, the animal lady, like we at least got to see the creature turn into different things to deal with them. We didn't get to see the visceral effects of that, but we got to see in concept what it was, you know. They must have just completely ran out of the ability to make any more effects for the movie, which explains the Shivers and Wiley deaths, because we don't even see anything with those. Which I guess, you know, again, I don't think it was the intent, but it does work. It makes you imagine way crazier shit than they probably could have put on screen, you know. Especially Miguel Nunez when he's at the door and there's that moment where you can see that he sees the thing off to the side and looks just like even more terrified. And he's like, "Let me in, man." You know, it works. So if anything, I'd say that this movie deserves credit for them very competently compensating for the fact that they clearly ran out of funds to do more effects. And maybe if this had came a little bit later in this initial Full Moon run, when they had the proper Paramount money to really throw a shit ton of cash at these things, it wouldn't have been an issue and we would have seen all of that stuff. But as it stands, I think the movie's still pretty effective. I wouldn't go and call it like a body count movie or one where necessarily the kills are the main attraction for the thing. I think it's just the concept, the atmosphere, the vibes of the movie, and the performances of the cast that really make it like worth watching, you know? So yeah, I guess, you know, we could talk a little bit about the soundtrack. It is Richard Band that did the music for it, and he's a very competent composer. I don't think it stands out among Full Moon's scores, really. It works. It does its job, but it's not like super memorable to me like a lot of their other stuff is. It's just sort of, it works. I don't know. What do you think, Cody?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't find myself like catching myself listening to any of it. So I mean, it wasn't bad, so it didn't turn me off from the movie, but it wasn't anything where it was like, oh, I'd love to hear that again, or I wonder if I can buy that soundtrack or the score or whatever. So I mean, it was fine.
What do you think there, Mikey? Do you have any thoughts on that? I feel like they did maybe recycle some of this music for other Full Moon stuff at different points, though I couldn't point specifically at any one thing.
Yeah, I believe they did. They used it for Sea People too, I believe. But the music's there, you know, music's really good. I like it. Yeah, it's not like music theme or music that you want to listen to every day. It's like maybe every once in a while. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, it works. It's it's a perfectly adequate score. It's not like an earworm or something you're gonna find yourself humming, like the Puppet Master theme or something, or even stuff from like Netherworld or any of their more iconic scores that Full Moon has done, Subspecies, any of the ones that they've done that we think of. Because Full Moon's always been very musical. And Richard Band is definitely no slouch. The dude has done some of the best scores I've ever heard in my life, but every now and again you got to be able to phone one in, and I guess Shadowzone was him doing that a little bit. I mean, even him phoning it in is better than the scores for a lot of films. Obviously, I don't think any of us are going to sit here and say that the music was bad. A score that you barely notice is much better than a score that's fucking terrible and kind of overshadows what you're watching on the screen. So I'll take it. What about you, Mason? What do you think about the music in this thing?
I found the music pretty good. I mean, it's not memorable, but like I say, it gets the job done and sets the mood for the film.
Oh, I'll show you that film at some point, babe. You're going to become intimately aware of what we're referencing with the enchiladas and everything. It's good times.
For now, I made it up myself.
Yeah, we'll give Cody full credit at the moment.
I learned it when I was playing acoustic guitar.
Yeah. I kind of want some enchiladas now. Just sound nice. A good red sauce. I guess we'll do favorite scenes. Do you guys? I guess we'll start out with you, Cody. You got a favorite character, favorite scene? I think we already both touched on Shivers being our favorite. I'm not sure if you were serious, but favorite character, favorite scene.
I would say favorite scenes, and for not normal reasons, was like the introduction with the animals, because of course there's a bunny there, so I'm a sucker for that.
Right.
But just, I would say probably the scene in the autopsy room where Bingo just kind of slaps the head and you get the blood splatter. And then I would say the second to that would just be finding out that Bingo's in the kitchen stuffing his ugly face with grapes, and then the reveal behind her would probably be my favorite.
Yeah,
and
that is dope.
Cutter was funny. I kind of wish we would have got a little more of her. She was definitely the comic relief of the movie.
I felt so bad for her when she's like, she plays it so perfect too, where she's like, you got to fix the thing, like, so I can leave. And then she kind of accepts her fate, but she's like, I had a date at the Tropicana, like, I felt so every time I watch this, I always feel so bummed for her, because yeah, she's harsh to Shivers and shit, but not for no reason. She seems nice enough. Like when she's asking him to tell, Shivers to look for the monkey, she does it. She doesn't just shoot it down or anything like that. When she's getting the food together for them to hold up or whatever in the control room, she seems like she's taking care to make sure they have everything that they need and then some, She seems like a sweet, scary old lunch lady,
She's very much that lady that she, I've already told this guy to fix this for however long. I mean, she says in the movie, but I don't remember if it was a week, a month, whatever. So, I mean, she gave the guy in her mind more than enough time. So
right
now it was her time to show him what happens if you don't. Like, I might poison you.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I think actually, yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you there. Cutter might be my favorite overall character. I do like Shivers a lot, but she adds the best comic relief moment to the movie too, when she calls him a hillbilly dipshit. I mean, it's so good the way that she delivers the line. I think my favorite scene also probably has to be that kitchen scene, man. She plops the rat down on the table. It's just so good. In terms of like, the kills or any of the creature effects, obviously the altered Bingo is definitely top of the list for me there. What about you, Mikey? Favorite character, favorite scene?
Definitely, I'm going to have to say John Doe himself is my favorite character, because he's the monster, he's the slimy creature, and one of my favorite scenes when he kills Dr. Earhart. I get to see his face, his eyes, and he screams. He goes, ah! Then he goes back into the dimension and brings her with him. And I'm going to have to say my other favorite scene is that kitchen scene with Cutter bringing in the dead rat to Shivers. But I also like the other scene when Cutter's got an apple and she hears a click, the rat screams, rat's dead, in a dead rat trap. She tries to restore it, puts it back where it was, she gets caught or something, and I guess her hand's ripping off and blood splatters, and all of a sudden, through the wall, boom, John Doe appears as that giant rat. That was really cool too.
It was, and there's something about the rat that does remind me of Creepazoids, probably because there's also a scene in that movie with like a big mutant rat or whatever. Not quite as big, but a little more mutiny, I feel like. I like how she's like, oh, you didn't even get the cheese either, you little son of a bitch. Like, she's just so stoked that she got the rat in the trap. What about you, Mason? You got a favorite character, favorite scene?
I'd say, of course, like just my favorite character, well, mostly for all kind of these horror movies, is basically the monster John Doe, just for its creature design, his powers. And my favorite scene has to be the mutated bingo scene, was with the sort of build up that with the monkey, and it turns out it's just a creature
awesome.
with as the real bingo's actually still chilling, eating grapes, and that kind of goes along with my favorite kill of the movie, just for like the build up and just the reveal of the mutated monkey.
Mikey really should have had a bowl of grapes for bingo over there during this discussion too. I think that would have been perfect. Maybe next time. I guess the real question here is, because Full Moon's known for sequels, right? Do you guys think that Shadowzone could have supported a sequel? Do you think that it's something you would have liked to have seen revisited at some point? I think a lot of Full Moon's stronger stuff from their early days is shit that really didn't get revisited, like this or Crash and Burn. What do you think, Cody? Would you have been into a sequel for this flick?
I mean, they definitely could have. And then the easy thing that a horror movie can do, if you get killed off screen, did you really get killed? So, I mean, a lot of these people could realistically come back because, I didn't get killed. I lost an arm, or, a leg got cut off, or I lost a lot of blood. Like, it'd be easy to do. And, I mean, Full Moon will still remake stuff way, way past. I mean, Sorority Babes too.
Yeah,
it's
fucking
not
Necropolis. They've done several.
It's not that it couldn't be done. I don't know that it would be better than, but I mean, I wouldn't. I never mind a sequel, even if I don't like it. I know there's some people they should just leave it at one, and that's fine. But I mean, I'd rather at least have a chance at another one. And if you don't like it, you've still got the original one to watch.
True enough. Yeah, I do respect this movie a lot too for. Like, it doesn't attempt to set it up for a sequel, but it doesn't rule one out either. The way the movie ends, it could go either way. You could look at it as completely standalone, which it is, or you could build more off of that. I mean, he could have went out there into the facility and ended up finding Wiley still alive. Maybe John Doe did turn into a giant enchilada and it was just the red sauce that was splattering on the window. We don't know, we never will. I think it could have supported a sequel. I think I would have preferred it to be brought back in some sort of shared universe type capacity, though. Like, maybe they don't do an exact sequel to this, but in one of our many fan cast, like, crossover films that me and my buddy Chris Pico have talked about for Full Moon, somehow the interdimensional beings from Shadowzone become a factor in the plot. I think that could be real cool. Or maybe the puppets in like a Puppet Master movie, they end up needing a home where they can live without having to fucking deal with Nazis all the time or something. So they go to like live with the John Does from Shadowzone. That could be neat.
Done. I mean, the first Evil Bong had all those characters in the strip clubs. I mean, it wouldn't be that hard to just throw it in for just like a cutaway scene for 5 minutes and do nothing else, just so you got to see him again.
Yeah. Maybe someone like one of those characters in Evil Bong goes into a closet and it just shows the greasy, drippy John Doe, and then he comes out and he's like, "There's thousands of them in there." That could have been cool. What do you think, Mikey? Would you have been game for a Shadowzone sequel?
Definitely, yes. I would like to see John Doe again, and this time, watch him transform into those creatures, the darkest fears, and see him kill all those people. That's what I gotta see, because in this movie, they don't show you how he kills them. Like, you don't know. They got to see how the people are killed. Like, they got to do that.
That'd be cool if in the sequel, like at the end when they're defeating him, they do something to him, shock him with something. I don't know, like hit him with a beam, that makes him shapeshift into a bunch of different forms, and he turns into like several full moon like icons. And then the very last form is he shapeshifts into Charles Band, and he just goes, dude, and then blows up. That'd be fucking awesome. What about you, Mason? Do you think you'd be game for a Shadowzone sequel? I don't think that we're gonna get a no from you, right?
Yeah, I mean, a sequel to Shadowzone might be interesting. Maybe like along lines like a new group of researchers just revisit this place just to figure out what exactly happened, and they accidentally just activate the machine again, letting the monster back out, and much more pissed off than ever. But although as a whole, it does in a way still good to serve as like just a one-off film, nonetheless.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, on the positive end of not getting sequels for it, we just have it as a quality piece of early full moon action, you know, so we don't have like crappy sequels to sort of have to accept in our lives, you know. I imagine if they had revisited this with a sequel, it would have been like 1, maybe 2, you know. I don't see this having ever became like a full moon franchise, full-on franchise or anything. But it could have been neat to see it revisited, and I would have been game for that for sure. I guess all that's left to do is fill you guys in on today's brew that I've tried. If you've been following the channel, you know that I've been slowly working through that Elysian Pumpkin Pack. Today I did Dark of the Moon Pumpkin Stout. This was quite stout, very, very dark brown beer here. It's, you know, it's a spookily smooth and chocolatey with a touch of cinnamon, and that's exactly what it delivered, you know. 7.5 ABV. I don't like it as much as I liked the Punkaccino, but I did like it quite a bit. Only drinking one of them today because, again, I am recovering from some illness, and that's about all I got in me, and it was stout, but highly recommend it. Probably, you know, almost tied with the Punkaccino as being the best in the batch. The last one that we have to try, which we will be rocking this coming Wednesday, is the Night Owl Pumpkin Ale. Hopefully it tastes like owls. We had an owl at the beginning of this movie, so maybe I probably should have went with that one instead of the Dark of the Moon, but it had moon in the title, and this was a full moon movie, so it seemed appropriate. It's got like a werewolf gimmick going on it too. So, yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel very wolfy, but time will tell. Maybe I'll have a metamorphosis after we're done with this here. I don't know. Our next full moon review is going to be for Crash and Burn, and that's going to be this coming Saturday. So you guys definitely are going to want to tune in for that. Hopefully we can get my buddy Canadian boy Ryan on here for a follow-up. He did my first Crash and Burn discussion that I did as a full length. And it'd be cool to see if his opinion on the film has changed in the last year or two. Don't imagine it has. Crash and Burn fucking kicks ass. And hopefully we can get you back on here for it. Cody, have you seen Crash and Burn yet? Oh, man. Well, that's a good excuse to get you out there and get you watching it. We also have a discussion for House Squatch coming up next weekend as well. That will precede our Crash and Burn discussion. So if you guys get a chance to watch House Squatch, tune in and see what we thought of it. It is available on Tubi, correct? There it is. It looks like a good time. If you're a fan of the Polonias, I'm sure you'll get something out of it. I've been Mosley. You guys have been a bunch of sexy beasts. I want to thank all these guys for coming tonight. Be sure to check out Jester Mikey over there on the YouTubes, or right here on the YouTubes, I guess. That is where we are. You know. This has been Nocturnal Emissions. Until next time.